In today's video, we are going to look at a game played between Alexander Kotov versus S. Gilgoric, and this game is the best example to understand that how to sacrifice your pawns in the opening to gain positional advantages. And this game was played in King's Indian Defense in Zurich, 1953. And let's start with our game. D4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, and d6. And now we understand that we have entered into King's Indian territory. Here, there are many moves for white to continue with, actually. But he went out for the move f3 in this position. The point of this f3 move is that white wants to hold this knight from coming over here on g4. And he is going to play the bishop over here to control these dark squares, as these dark squares have been weakened by the move f3. Black castled. Now bishop e3, controlling the dark squares. Now e5. Here black has different choices. He can play the move knight to c6. He can play the move knight bd7. We are still in the theory, and there is a lot of theory in it. And he can even go for this move c6. There are many choices, but we are not discussing the theory. We are discussing something different. And e5 and d5. And now black played the move c5. Asking white if you want to counter it, you can play the move this en passant, d into c5. What happens if you take it? The problem with this that black would then have this bad pawn. But what problem white has in this position? Because after b into c6, queen d2, white is going to castle this side. Now queen c7, white castles, and now rook d8. At some point, black is going to play this move and shatter up this whole center. And that's why white did not play the move en passant, d into c5. He played the move, developing move, bishop d3. Now it is time to hit on the king side. And this is what always black's plan is, that he is going to attack in the king's Indian defense on the king side, and white would be trying to attack on the queen side. Knight ge2, developing the knight. Now f5, e into f5, g into f5, and queen c2. And white has taken control of this diagonal. Now, in this position, I want you people to pause and think that how you can take back the control of this diagonal from white. It is black to move. How you can take back the control of this diagonal if you want to attack properly on this king side. And the best move which was played in the game was here e4, sacrificing a pawn and closing this diagonal by white's own pawn. After f into e4, why you sacrifice the pawn? Because you want to hold these two pieces behind their pawns. So are you going to take it? No. You are going to push f4. The bishop has to go back. Now you see that this bishop is being blocked and this king is being blocked by his own pawn on e4. So now bishop f2 by white and knight d7. Now this knight is coming over here on e5. Just a moment, please hold just a moment. I'm really very sorry for. I am really very sorry. Actually, there was a disturbance. Actually, I had to counter that. So knight d7. The point is that this knight is controlling this square, and knight is heading to e5. Then it would be hitting this pawn and this bishop. Now you see that how at the cost of just uh, one pawn, black has gotten his pieces active. White plays the move knight g1. What is the reason behind playing the move knight g1 is that black if play the move knight e5, he is going to play the move knight f3, asking black to exchange the knight. So you know the white's plan, how to continue. You know the white's plan, how to continue. The best move is that queen g5. This pawn is weak, so hit it. Bishop f1, protecting the pawn. Now, how to continue with your plan? Knight e5. It is time to bring the knight. Knight f3. Are you going to take it? No. You want this diagonal to be opened as white is expected to castle on the king side. Sorry, on the queen side. So that's why queen e7 back. Now knight into e5 and queen into e5. And now you see that at the cost of just one pawn, white pieces have this battery, best placement. Black pieces have best placement. This bishop may be developing over here or on d7. And then black can plan to move a6 and b5, challenging this pawn. White goes for the long castle. So now which piece is out of play in this position? The black's piece. There are two pieces. One is bishop, but it can develop just in one move. Then with which another piece? This knight. So bring it back. Knight f6. Now you are hitting this pawn of white, e4. Is it time for white to save this pawn? Yes, because it has two pieces to protect it. Knight has came back to f6. And what is black's threat now? What is black's threat now? Think of it. White played the move h3. The black's threat was playing the move knight to g4, challenging this bishop and taking control of this square. So h3 by black. Now bishop d7 by black. I'm going to pause the video over here and let you people think that white wants to play the move bishop to d3, further protecting this pawn, and then his queen would be free to move. Is it possible that you can play the move a6 now when your bishop is on c8? Think. Remember, if you are watching a video and you does not think and just look at the moves, then you will not learn. Think. And the problem is that if you play the move a6 when your bishop is over here on c8, Now bishop d3, b5, c into b5, into b5, bishop into b5, and bishop a6. Black has an attack, but white has also the defense. But black pieces have an activity. This was another option also. Now bishop d7. Now black is threatening to play the move a6. White first defends the pawn. Now his queen is free. a6. Going with the plan. Now black is threatening to play the move b5. How to counter it? And this is not an easy one. I assure you that this is not an easy one. You will have to see a maneuver of your piece, one of your pieces. And what is that? Now white plays the move knight b1. What is the reason? The reason behind is that if you play the move b5 now knight d2. If you take it, this knight would be very properly developed on c4. So white is not allowing you to play the move b5 immediately. How to continue? How to continue? And the second threat white's is that if you are not allowing to play this move, then second threat white has that he is going to bring his knight from d2 to f3. How you counter the threat of this knight f3 move? And how you can further develop your this knight on f6? These moves are not easy to see. The point is that you are going to again sacrifice one of your pawns to prevent white from coming to f3 and getting your knight. Now g into f3, knight h5, knight d2, and now knight f4. And this knight is hitting this bishop, a very important bishop, which controls the defense of this diagonal and this square, the movement of this pawn. So white can't give this bishop back. Bishop fn, protecting the bishop. Now b5 still. And here h4 by white. I want to show you that what happens if you take the pawn over here. The problem is that after a to b5, now black is threatening to take the pawn. King e1. How to continue? Now black is threatening to play the move rook g1. Ping your king over here on g8. So first you move the rook to f6. Then your rook is coming to g6 and controlling this file. And black's pieces gets activity. That's why he played the move h4 instead. Now king h8 first himself. Now rook g1, and white is threatening to play the move rook to g5. And if it comes to g5, then white is very much better. So how to stop it? Bishop f5, f6, controlling this square g5. Now black is threatening to play the move b4. How to counter it? Knight b3, bringing the knight out of the way over here. And now this queen is controlling this second rank. Rook ab8, still trying to press over here on this file that I'm going to take and going to put pressure over here. And how white should continue over here? Instead of rook ab8, there was another move also, and that was e5. Threatening to play the move a4 now. After c into b5, a4. The knight has to move. Knight d2, now a3, challenging the pawn. Knight c4, challenging, hitting the queen and the pawn. A into b2 check, king b1, and queen e7. And white is better. Instead of rook ab8, there was another continuation, and that was b4. If you played the move b4 by black. Now what? Knight a5, bishop to a4, challenging the queen, b3, queen a1 check, king d2, bishop c3 check, king e3, bishop d4 check, and the game is equal and it is just a draw. So instead, that's why black went out for the move rook ab8, threatening to take the pawn and opening up this file. So white played the move bishop to e1. Now white is threatening to play the move bishop to c3. How to counter it? b4, you have to play it. You can't allow white to exchange these two bishops. So king b1, and now rook a8, and now black is saying I'm going to play the moves like these. But now white has something, and white something has that he can maneuver his knight and challenge this knight over here, or he can challenge this knight on d3. Bishop g3, pinning the knight. Now rook g8, queen h2, protecting the bishop. And I want you people to pause the video and think that how black should continue, because in the next move, white is threatening to take the knight. And you don't want to give up the knight at present. And here comes the exchange sacrifice. Rook into g3. Now, rook into g3. This queen is protecting this mating net. How to challenge it? And knight e2. Queen has to take the knight. And now queen into g3, winning the rook. Now knight c1. Now the knight is coming over here on d3. You must have something counter, otherwise white is a lot of pawns up. So how to play? There is a plan that you can play these moves and counter this pawn over here. So go for it. a5. Now knight d3. And white is threatening to play the move e5. So you play the move bishop d4 yourself first. Now h5, protecting the pawn. And now queen h4, threatening to take the pawn. Bishop g2. The point of bishop g2 is that now white is threatening to play the move f4. Here nothing is happening now. This whole structure is being blocked. So the game is again going to be shifted on this king side. So rook g8. Rook h1, challenging the queen. Queen g3. Now hitting the bishop. Bishop f1. And here the position is roundabout equal. And after a4, black tried desperately to open up this square. And white plays the move king c2. Now a3 and b3. And here both the players agreed to a draw. The reason behind is that black is going to play the move rook f8, challenging this pawn. White has to defend it. And black has nothing better to challenge it, and bishop will again goes back. That's why they agreed to draw. But from this game, we learned that how and when to sacrifice your pawns for the positional advantages. To place your pieces on the squares where you sacrificed your pawns. So, if you like my video, kindly subscribe and hit the bell icon button. Thank you very much.